Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bull Take Podcast. That's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Wader, and we are back with some NFL football. The final week of the regular season is here in the books. We're going to get to find out who those playoff teams will be, the 14 teams that are going to have the chance of the Lombardi. But first, we got to get Week 18 solved. We're going to talk all about it here in a sec. Before that, if you want to see how good or bad our predictions were for the quarterfinals of the college football playoff, go back and get that episode a watch or listen, available on YouTube or Spotify. We preview the matchups, give our keys. It is safe to say we could not have been more wrong about Ohio State and Oregon. We'll just put our hand up right now on that one.
Yeah, no. I had a rough week picking these quarterfinal games, except one. It's the only one I care about.
Yeah, Notre Dame, Fighting Irish, staying alive. Yeah, it's to say the least. They stayed alive. I guess real quick before we get into it, thoughts and prayers go out to those affected in New Orleans by that event that happened New Year's Eve, around 3 a.m. on New Year's Day. Just absolutely terrible. So our thoughts, prayers go out to them. But yes, those playoff games went down the other day. So go give that episode a watch and see how good or bad our predictions were and our keys on the game were, to say the least. But nonetheless, NFL episode here. Before we dive into the Week 18, we're going to talk Week 17 first. And Austin, as always, we have our biggest winners and losers. Last time we're going to really do this one. Who is your biggest winner from Week 17?
I think I have to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. They needed a big win to keep themselves alive for a playoff spot, and they went out there, even with the missed kicks at the end of the game. They could have helped them win it, even with some of the mistakes that were made. They still go down. Two great catches by T. Higgins from Joe Burrows to seal this one. Just fantastic. Way to take your destiny. It's in your hands, and way to control it and give yourself a chance heading into this final week of the regular season.
Yeah, I think they're a fair one. I'll always just give the other one to the Rams because holy cow, did they have a lot of stuff work their way to clinch a playoff spot, beating the Cardinals with a last-second interception, and then having to need three specific teams win to clinch a tiebreaker and strength the schedule over the Seahawks and getting them done. I don't think there is a bigger winner because now instead of fighting for the division title this week, the Rams are getting to rest their starters before playing in that wild card round. But now we got the biggest loser in Austin. Listen, we could make this into multiple different teams. We could, but I think it's very clear that there is one big loser from this past Sunday. That's the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, there's no other way to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, no kidding.
No other way.
The Colts were just not in it on this one. They, like you said, they got beat down in this game. If I'm correct, win this game, you're still alive next week for a playoff spot. And now you lose to the Giants, a team who really should have been playing for the number one pick probably in this game. And instead, they go out and beat you by 12. Yeah, just embarrassing. But to throw another team out there, a team that is put themselves in a similar pickle, not quite as bad. I'm going to go with my team, my biggest winner from last week, and that's the Atlanta Falcons. I think, obviously they played a tough team in the Washington Commanders. 11 wins now on the season. Jaden Daniels is all but locked up that Rookie of the Year. The way he just gutsy performance down to the wire. He was tired. He was worn out. But he has a great coaching staff and a great veteran quarterback in Marcus Mariota telling him, hey, go out there, put it all on the line, and send us to the playoffs. Send us home with a victory here. So I thought that was a super awesome clip to see. But for the Falcons, win this game, and you're in control of the South. All you have to do is win next week against the Panthers. Now, with a loss here, you need the Saints to beat the Buccaneers as well as to beat the Panthers. They painted themselves into a corner.
Yeah, they really have. And it just sucks because it's, unfortunate matchup. Carolina or Tampa Bay got Carolina in an easy blowout win, and then you had to go on the road and face the Washington Commanders, a playoff team on the road, and lose in overtime in heartbreaking fashion. We'll talk more on that game in a second. But yeah, let's dive into some of these Week 17 games. We already talked about the Christmas game some, and we'll dive into it. But let's talk about the one that happened on Saturday. And Austin, Bengals, Broncos. This is the game we talked about, going to be must watch, was huge for the playoff picture. And it is safe to say that this game lived up to the hype.
Yeah, this was a back and forth, huge plays really all over the place. I don't know how many times Marvin Mims was getting, the biggest highlight touchdown you ever. You think you've seen one of the, most insane catches of the season for a touchdown. How about doing it, all back-to-back drives practically? Just phenomenal stuff from the Broncos. But same thing from the Bengals. Look, you keep getting these kill shots, especially late third quarter and into the fourth quarter from Bo Nix, and they come back down the floor and just even this game out. It was really unbelievable the way these two teams were just going at each other. And like I said, the Bengals, had the opportunity with the field goal a couple times in this game to win it, and they can't do it, but still able to come out. And Joe Burrow just able to make the big plays. T. Higgins able to make the big plays. Just absolutely phenomenal. Having such a solid receiver who would be a wide receiver number one on a lot of teams as your wide receiver number two. They're going to sorely miss T. Higgins if they can't get something worked out this offseason.
I'm going to miss him quite a bit. There are plenty of teams that I know will want him on the roster. But talking about it with Denver, once again, this is a second straight week. Golden opportunity there to clinch the division, or not clinch the division, clinch a playoff spot. Win, all you got to do is win. And another collapse down the stretch causes them to lose. And a tie would have clinched them a playoff spot too. A tie in this game would have clinched it. They go 3-and-out after the missed field goal, and then Cincinnati goes down the field in 5 plays and wins it in overtime. But for Cincy, it keeps them alive. They still need quite a bit of things to work out for them, which we'll talk more about in a minute. And for the Broncos, all you have to do is beat Carson Wentz and the Kansas City Chiefs backups. If you do that, you will be a playoff team. Doesn't get any simpler than that. We'll talk more about those scenarios in a minute. But let's dive more into this Colts-Giants massive upset that happened on Sunday. Giants, I believe this is the first time, this is the most points they've scored in a game, I believe, since 2019. So 45-33 over the Colts. Drew Lock, absolutely incredible in this game. 300 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And again, this is what feels like the 4th time in like the last 6 years where the Colts have a scenario where all they got to do is win and control their own destiny. And they went out and they blew it. There ain't no other way to describe it as they blew it within this Colts franchise. So my question for you, Austin, what do you do this offseason to continue? Because this is the second straight season you're on the cusp of the playoffs, and it's right there in your grasp, and you blow it.
Yeah, I think the big thing to me is figuring out what's going on at quarterback here. Is Anthony Richardson really in this for the long haul? Is he really interested in this is what he wants to do, is be a quarterback in the NFL or be the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts? We had the incident with the, checking out on third down in the red zone. And look, I'm not going to come out here and say that a guy has to, if you're not feeling right, I think it's absolutely the right call to say, hey, I need to come out. So many safety risks from feeling off, whether it's your breathing, your heart rate, your head hurts, anything like that. So I think, anything like that, you feel like you need to come off the field, I understand. But it just feels like there was more to it than that. Obviously, he was benched after that. So it just feels like there's a lot going on. If Anthony Richardson's not the guy, whether the Colts don't think he's the guy or he doesn't think, this is the right situation for him, then the Colts got to go out and find somebody. I don't know what that exactly means for them, but that's what they're missing right now is confidence in their franchise quarterback. Looked like at the beginning of the season this was a no-brainer, kind of genius pick, and now all of a sudden it just seems to be falling apart. So I think the Colts need to reevaluate their quarterback situation. I like Anthony Richardson. I think getting him on the right track is the best move. But I'm not the Colts. I'm not the guy making the decisions. But I think they need to get themselves back on the right track. This team just fell apart in the middle of the season. And it's not just Anthony Richardson; it's this whole team. They just don't. They just didn't seem to have any discipline at the end of the season, and it cost them. So I think you got to reevaluate some of the quarterback and some of the veterans on this team, and decide: are these guys you want to continue to carry on, or do we need to start trying to, make our own new kind of culture here in Indianapolis? Are the guys that are here, do they have the right culture, or do we need a refresh in the locker room? I think that's the big thing for this team right now.
I would agree, and obviously the reports coming out about players questioning Anthony Richardson's loyalty again, that really doesn't make the locker room situation any better there with some of the guys, Kuhn DeForest Buckner going in and calling him out. I have my opinions about it with them. But Chris Ballard as GM and Ursay at the top, I think, is another part of the problem. Let's not forget the fiasco that Ursay caused with Jonathan Taylor. What was that last offseason? I
Yeah.
think. What about a whale transporting a whale instead of signing Jonathan Taylor to a contract extension? I forget what the whole thing was, but it's always been just a crap show pretty much with them there. And Chris Ballard has made some good moves as a Colts GM. I'm not coming out here and saying he's done a terrible job, but sometimes you brought up a culture reset. Sometimes if you want a culture reset, it starts at the top. It starts at the very top and works its way down. And Shane Steichen, listen, I think he's a good coach. I think he's still got a long way to go. So I'm not gonna, say he needs to be fired here. I would not be shocked if Ursay and Ballard fired him. I don't think he deserves to get fired, but I wouldn't be shocked if they did fire him. Uh, so to me, it needs to be a reset at the top. If I'm Ursay, number one, obviously I'd try to sell the team if I was in charge of the Colts with them. But I think firing Ballard, making a new move at GM would be the right move. And like you said, maybe looking in that locker room and saying, who is here and who is buying in under Anthony Richardson? Because you committed to Anthony Richardson. We all said it when they drafted him at number 3 that this was a project at quarterback. This was a guy who was going to take time. This is his first, not even a full season as a starter, as a quarterback. People forget he played only 3 games his rookie year and got injured and was out for the season. So I think he needs a little bit more time, I think, to get the reins. Now, in a year or two, if it's still like this, obviously, I think there's more of a conversation to be had. But as of right now, I think Anthony Richardson still needs to be your guy, but there needs to be a culture change at the top, in my opinion. And now let's talk about another one that occurred here. Green Bay and Minnesota. This was a big one in the NFC North. Minnesota taking down the Packers 27-25. And this score looks a lot closer than the game actually was. Minnesota was in control of this game throughout most of it. Sam Darnold was playing incredible once again. And the Vikings got to win 27-25, setting up, dare I say, and this is just my opinion on it, this might not be your opinion, quite possibly the biggest regular season game maybe in the history of the NFL. So, yeah, big win for Minnesota there. And what you saw in the post game with Sam Darnold in that locker room, it brings up the question we discussed last week, Austin, about what to do with this quarterback situation with J.J. McCarthy waiting in the wing, but Sam Darnold, who's scheduled to be a free agent this offseason, playing like an MVP candidate.
Yeah, man, this has been such an awesome season to see for Sam Darnold. And look, I'm a guy who was never crazy about Sam Darnold coming out of college. But something about just kind of seeing the reemergence of some of these quarterbacks with Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold this season, it's just like, it's so fun to see. I mean, you think about it for these guys, especially a guy like Sam Darnold or a guy like Geno Smith, pretty much counted out from the very uh, and now finally getting a chance in a new environment with a new opportunity to be at the forefront of something special is really kind of awesome to see. So yeah, just great to see there for Sam Darnold. But like you said, I definitely think in my lifetime, this is the most important regular season football game that's ever been played. This is the difference between having a week off and having the NFC come through you and playing on the road in a playoff game. Um, that's a massive, massive difference here down the stretch. Uh, So yeah, I think we're going to see a great football game. I think we're going to see some great action. But for a big win for the Vikings, that they got this job done against the Packers, who were getting hot at the right time.
Green Bay, of course, now question mark up against some of these playoff teams. All their losses, obviously, losing to the Detroit Lions both times, losing to the Vikings both times, and losing to the Eagles, losing all the playoff teams. You got to wonder now with this, they've fallen down all the way to the 7 seed with the way things worked out this week. They would now, if the season ended right now, they would be heading to Philly for round one of the wild card round to take on the Eagles, a team obviously we saw them play in Brazil in week one and how great of a game that was. Very different teams from that week one matchup. So my question for you, Austin, what do you think about Green Bay's chances entering postseason play? There's some question marks, but there's certainly a lot of talent there.
Yeah, like you said, it's not great that they've lost to a lot of these top teams in the NFC. But like we were talking about last week, they started to play some really good football over the last few weeks coming into this Vikings game. And they're certainly a different team from the beginning of the season. Obviously Jordan Love got hurt in that first game against the Eagles. Now, I'm not. We're not going to be here to say, oh, maybe the Packers surely would have won had he been out there. But certainly that made a difference. So I really do think it'll be interesting to see. But I think they've got a good chance. It's still, I don't know, man. This NFC is just tough. I'd really like to have that 1 seed and just have a week off to get ready for these teams in the NFC because while the NFC wasn't super duper competitive like through and through like the AFC is, obviously with all the spots being locked up, if I'm correct, now in the NFC. It's just more of all these teams that are in the playoffs in the NFC have had really, really good moments throughout the season. The Commanders and the Packers and the Rams. So it's just not. You're not going to get an easy game. The Eagles aren't going to get an easy game out of whoever they play in 7. So yeah, it's tough. I like, to think that, be in the 7 seed, it's going to be a little bit tougher, but just still a Packers team that I would not want to play right now.
Now, keep in mind, obviously, we're the 7 seed last year, and look what they went on the road, did to an NFC East team on the road, humiliated them in the wild card round. So yeah, never say never with Green Bay. Last game we're going to touch on, you brought it up, a Commanders 30-24 win over Atlanta in overtime. Was a great game between two playoff teams. It felt like a playoff game. It came down to the very end. Atlanta everyone thought they made that kick on the final play of regulation to win the game, but it was well short. Had looked like it was clearly going to be good, but it fell just short. And then Washington right down the field. And really, I think that's been the story of this Commander season. You talked about it with Jaden Daniels. I've said he's won Rookie of the Year since like week 3. But it seems like every single Washington win this year with him, pretty much every single one, has featured him needing to be clutch late in the game and him capitalizing and being clutch. And I got to tell you, this is probably one of the clutchest rookie seasons for a quarterback that I've ever seen in my time watching NFL football.
Yeah, he just is so poised. Just in any moment, he just doesn't let the moment get too big. And like I said, I don't know if you saw the clip with him talking to Marcus Mariota on the sideline during the timeout. But just kind of I think that leadership from Marcus Mariota and just having that veteran presence, a guy that's like standing in your corner, the way Marcus Mariota was, at least on that drive. If that's been the way he's been all season, I think that's just something. I mean, he came to the sideline we saw after that last run, he was dejected. He was tired. I won't say dejected because he wasn't upset, but he's definitely tired. He just had two big rushes. He just took a big hit. It's a big opportunity for them to get to 11 wins. And he just comes to the sideline, and Mariota's like, hey, this is you. Use your skill set. Use your God-given abilities to take us home right here. And so I think having a guy that's that composed and that kind of class act and that kind of leader in your corner when you're able to come to the sideline and to have those guys give you those kind of words, I think that certainly helps a ton. It helps you kind of clear your mind and kind of calm down in this situation when you have like that voice of calm and that voice of reason that's able to come through and just kind of soothe you and let you know you've got the ability to do it. Now just go out there and execute. So that's something that I really like about this team.
Yeah, and for Washington, this is their first 11-win season since 1991. It has been a while
Ooh.
since Washington's had success like this, and it's coming in the rookie year of Jane Daniels. Now, let's get into more detail about the Falcons here because you brought it up. We all knew what this meant with this loss. They are now not in control. They need Tampa to lose and them to win in order to get the NFC South back. Michael Penix in this game, look, he had his rough moments, but I want to give Michael Penix some credit. That drive late in the game to get it to overtime, that is the Michael Penix that we all knew well from college football. There's a reason he was the winner of the Michael Penix College Football Player of the Year for the Bull Take podcast because he delivered in the clutch there. And even if this happens where you win but Tampa wins, so you're out of the playoffs, you have to be happy with what you've seen in the few games from Michael Penix, especially in a clutch and tough situation like this was on Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, that was what was so fun about watching the end of this game was it was two rookie quarterbacks who don't take no for an answer. Just two guys who went out and just did not quit on their teams. They just went out and put together great drives at the end of this game, both giving their teams the best chance to win they possibly could, with Michael Penix tying the game. And with Jane Daniels winning the game, they did as much as they possibly could for their teams. And just unfortunate that somebody had to lose that football game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will be unfortunate for see who has to lose the football game this Sunday night. Before we dive into this Sunday and the playoff scenarios, Austin, another tradition with the regular season coming to an end, that Monday after the regular season ends, known as Black Monday, where you see all the coaching moves happen that could affect the future of teams. You wonder who's going to be fired. We've seen only a few firings this year. Some, I would say, are a surprise. Obviously, there's going to be changes in New Orleans there, going to be changes in Chicago. You mentioned it there. What are you expecting? Are there any? Give me some of the coaching changes that you expect to see after this regular season comes to an end on that Monday.
I think one that basically everybody in the league already assumes is open, and it's just not, nobody said anything yet. I think it's Jacksonville. I think Doug Peterson's time is up. I don't think Doug Peterson's a bad coach. But it has just not been the tenure they expected from Doug Peterson. He kind of came in with this reputation from Philadelphia as being kind of a quarterback whisperer. Had Carson Wentz almost to an MVP season, and then without missing a beat after the injury, turned Nick Foles into a Super Bowl MVP. Had the Eagles competing for a while he was there. And so the expectation was kind of to make Trevor Lawrence this kind of similar, MVP candidate and get Jacksonville to the top of the AFC. And while they've made the playoffs once in his tenure, they choked away the season last year, and they've just had an abysmal season this year. And it's not entirely Doug Peterson's fault. There have definitely been some pieces on this team that are not playing to their, best. I would say that Travis Etienne has just been downright abysmal this year, turning the ball over way too much. For a running back who, doesn't touch the ball as much as running backs did 25 years ago. You should not be coughing the ball up in the red zone as much as you are. It should definitely be the quarterback who's turning the ball over the most on a team. And I'm not saying he is the most. That's probably a little bit of an exaggeration, but it just feels like he's had some back-breaking turnovers when he's been healthy. Health has been another issue there. So I don't think it's all Doug Peterson's fault. But when I look at this team, I feel like the quarterback, it's going to be your quarterbacks or your scapegoats, and your coaches are your scapegoats. And it seems like this team's a little too invested in Trevor Lawrence to turn on him now. So I think Doug Peterson's going to get the short end of the stick on this one. And that's the big one to me that I see on the list. Maybe the Raiders, if they want to go on a reset. But if you're keeping the same core and you're keeping the same pieces headed into next season, I think getting rid of Antonio Pierce would be locker room suicide.
Yeah. That's my big worry. Antonio Pierce, I think is one to keep an eye on. Uh, Listen, they're playing old school brand of football, and it just they don't have the pieces right now. They don't have the pieces. If they give him time to get the pieces, which is what I thought of this last night, and it just makes so much sense to me, Austin. Imagine, I know they'll probably go quarterback, but imagine Ashton Genty on the Raiders next year.
Yeah,
It's the perfect fit to me. It's the perfect fit.
yeah. I mean, they're trying to run it down people's throats. You've got guys like Amir Abdullah who just had a really big game not too long ago for the Raiders. But yeah, if they could get a stud young running back like Ashton Genty to just run laps around a defense, yeah, that would certainly help, and it would take some of the pressure off whoever you play at quarterback. I mean, you talk like you said, they just don't really have a piece that's just a dominant running back, and so it's hard to take pressure off Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew or whoever ends up playing quarterback for this team next year. So yeah, an investment in a big time running back, like you said, probably going to go quarterback at the top of this draft. Um, but Ashton Genty would be fun. Maybe because this guy might be on the board a little bit later. A Cam Scatabo with the way he really ran
Mhm.
against Texas. Can't wait to talk about that game.
Oh my gosh. Cam Scattaboo. Oh my gosh, that broke my heart. But we
Yeah,
need to talk NFL. One I am expecting huge changes, even though again I don't think he deserves this fate. Brian Daboll and the Giants. I just
yeah,
think after the whole crap show that went on this past offseason with Saquon and what he did in Philly, I think him and Joe showing the GM, I think they're both gone. I think the owner just after that whole fiasco. They did the offseason hard knocks. He said he was going to lose sleep if Saquon went to Philly. Not only has Saquon gone to Philly, he's rushed for over 2,000 yards, is an MVP candidate. To me, I could see him hitting the reset button there. One that I think's to be determined, and it wouldn't surprise me. I think Zach Taylor. I've been praying for it for years. As a
yeah,
guy, but I would not be shocked with Ben Johnson being available if Cincinnati were to let Zach Taylor go if they don't make the playoffs and they go and get another offensive guru like Ben Johnson. I'll be honest with you, if I'm Ben Johnson, if that Cincinnati job opens, I want that job. You have a phenomenal quarterback, phenomenal wide receiver. You can help rebuild that offense at a cheaper rate while also building that defense back up. That's one I think that is to be determined, obviously, with what Cincinnati does this weekend. Cleveland is one to keep an eye on with Stefanski. I think he's a good coach, but that situation, he was put in a pretty bad one with the certain trade happening there. Um, you wonder maybe if there's one and done coaches. Callahan with the Titans is one I think to keep an eye on. This
yeah.
season has been such a disaster for them. It could be a one and done tenure. Um, yeah, there's a couple I would keep my eye on, but yeah, I'm with you. Doug Peterson's the obvious one. Doug Peterson will be gone. It's just a matter of how long into Monday will it be when they fire him.
Yeah, no kidding.
But let's talk about these playoff pictures now. And the good news for us, Austin, it is not a stressful thing to talk about. These are very simple scenarios for both the AFC and the NFC. The AFC, all that's left to be determined is the AFC North and the 7 seed. That's all that's left to be determined. The AFC North is simple. If the Ravens take down the Browns this weekend on Saturday afternoon, they will represent the AFC. They will be the AFC North champions. If they lose and the Steelers beat the Bengals, Steelers get the AFC North. Pure and simple there. Now the AFC wild card, the 7 seed gets interesting. Obviously, Denver is still there, Austin. All they have to do is beat the Chiefs backups and they will be in. But if they were to slip up, Miami, who reportedly is not expected to be able to have Tua this weekend, all they have to do is beat the Jets. And if they win that, they will be in to the playoffs over the Broncos if they were to lose. But if both those teams somehow lose and Cincinnati takes down Pittsburgh on Saturday night, the Bengals will be in the playoffs as a 7 seed. And I want you to think about that for a second, Austin. Right now, the 2 seed is the Buffalo Bills have clinched the 2 seed. You are looking at, if that happens, a Bengals versus Bills round 1 wild card game between Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. If Roger Goodell had any pool and rigged the league, this is probably the best chance. But your thoughts on some of these final playoff pictures in the AFC with the AFC North and that 7 seed?
Yeah, it's just one of those things that, again, makes you hate how poorly the Bengals have started yet another season. Because, again, they're playing so well right now that if I'm Buffalo, I'm praying that the Broncos or the Dolphins win this week. I don't want to play the Bengals. They're playing so well right now. It's just a bad situation. But this, it feels simple. Chiefs backups, Broncos are going to play their starters. Pretty good starting unit. Feels like a walk in the park. Feels like easy, but there's no such thing as easy. So I'd watch out for this game. You start thinking, we've got it, or this is going to be an easy game, and things start to get a little harder. So hopefully the Broncos stay focused. And as far as the Dolphins are concerned, interesting situation. I honestly am stunned that they're still available for a playoff spot. Not just that, but that they have priority over the Bengals. But as far as the AFC North is concerned, it'd be certainly a Christmas miracle, late Christmas miracle for the Steelers if the Browns were able to pull off some magic against the Ravens. But that's where some of the Browns' wins have come, right? One against the Ravens, one against the Steelers. So it's
Bailey Zappi expected to start. So
Bailey Zappi?
Yep, that Bailey Zappi is expected to start at quarterback for the Browns. So, hey, I've seen Bailey Zappi win some games. So, never say never, but
yeah, that'll be something to see.
Yeah, that's for the AFC. The NFC wild card spots are set. Everything. It comes down to the NFC South. Pure and simple. If Tampa Bay takes down New Orleans, they will be the 4 seed in the playoffs. If they lose and Atlanta wins, they are going to be the 4 seed. The wild card teams are set. While it'll be the 7 seed will most likely be Green Bay or Washington, and the 5 seed will either be Detroit or Minnesota, which will take care of itself. So those are the playoff pictures there. Let's now talk about some of these Week 18 games. Obviously, one massive one that really, if I'm being honest with you, Austin, is probably the only game we're going to preview because, let's face it, it's a massive one. 14-2 Vikings heading to Detroit to take on the 14-2 Lions. The script writes itself there. Winner will be the 1 seed and have the road to the Super Bowl through the NFC go through either Minnesota or Detroit. To the loser, you're heading to Tampa Bay, most likely, to take on a red-hot Buccaneer offense on the road. So, it doesn't get any bigger than this, Austin. Oh, not to mention the division title's also on the line. So, a massive one on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, like we said, how many more times can I say it? Probably the most important, most impactful regular season game in a long time. great storylines coming into this one. You know, what they've done, what Goff has done with the Lions and his tenure. Kind of a guy that was almost felt like giving up in his own right, but's found some new life here in Detroit. We talked about Sam Darnold, but it's just going to be a great matchup of two teams that are going to keep this game close, physical. It's going to be a wonder how well the Lions are going to be able to play in this game. Obviously, no David Montgomery for the rest of the season. So how, a bigger workload for Jahmyr Gibbs. We're going to see that this week. We're going to see a super physical Vikings defense. So I'm really interested to see what happens in this game. I think it's going to be excitement. It's one everybody needs to tune in for. It's the perfect way to kind of, close out the season in a sense.
Yeah. Waiting all day for Sunday night. I think it's safe to say all of us will be waiting all day for Sunday night, that
Absolutely.
final Sunday. Let's just get to these game picks that are going to happen here, and then we'll get to our bet of the weeks, obviously. But going to do the game picks for the games that obviously have major implications for the playoff picture. Let's start with the simple one. We both agree Baltimore will probably take down Cleveland. So we're not going to make a game pick for that one. As much as I hope and pray that the Browns will pull the miracle of the season, they are currently a 20-point underdog to the Ravens, Austin. 20 points.
Yeah.
20. It's going to be absolutely embarrassing there. But the other game on Saturday night is a big one. Bengals, Steelers. Bengals obviously need to win to get in the playoffs or have a chance. The Steelers, this is a massive one for playoff implications, especially if the Chargers beat the Raiders on Sunday. Because if the Chargers win and the Steelers, then most likely the Steelers could fall all the way back to the 6th seed and have to go to Baltimore for the wild card round. But if they win, the Steelers will be heading to Houston to take on a much weaker and much easier opponent in the Houston Texans in round one. Obviously, I think it's safe to say Mike Tomlin would prefer the easier matchup against the Texans than to take on an AFC North rival who's coming off a butt whooping against you about 3 weeks ago. So, big one on Saturday night in Pittsburgh. Bengals, Steelers. Who you got in this one?
Man, going to be a close one, going to be a fun one. I will definitely be tuning in to watch this one. But like I was saying earlier, Bengals are a team I would not want to play right now, especially since this game happens on Saturday, correct?
Monday
So
night.
the Bengals, for the entirety of this game, and depending on what happens after, will be alive for a playoff spot. So it won't be like at halftime they'll find out, oh, they've been eliminated from the playoffs. This whole game, they'll be thinking we win and we've done everything we can. Now we just need some things to go our way. I think with that kind of pressure, that kind of momentum, this team's going to go out and play their butts off. I really like the Steelers. I really hate doing it to you, but I'm going to take the Bengals here. It seems like these last few years they've had slow starts, but at the end of the year, they know what they need to do to get in or get close to getting in. And I think they're going to put themselves in another spot, put the pressure on the Broncos, put the pressure on the Dolphins, and win on Saturday night.
Yeah, I 100% unfortunately agree with you, but I am a completely and utterly biased Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I have no choice but to pick Steelers. But I agree with everything you're saying. I don't want to play the Bengals right now.
Yeah.
And knowing what's at stake if we lose this game and the Chargers win on Sunday with us having to go to Baltimore for the wild card round. And also, I'm in talks potentially if the Steelers play the Texans in the wild card round, I might look for tickets. I might go to this game. I
You
might
should.
try to find tickets to go to this game. So, for my personal benefit and for my mental health, I would like the Steelers to win this game so they don't have to play the Ravens in the wild card round. But now let's get to Sunday action. And look, this is one that we're going to talk about in the NFC South with the way it's played out. The Buccaneers hosting the Saints. It's simple for Tampa Bay. If you win this game, you are the NFC South champions. You're hosting a home playoff game and are going to have a chance to make it to the Super Bowl and have another opportunity. Taking on the Saints, 5-11, coming off a loss to the Raiders. Really, doesn't get any lower for the Saints. Do they somehow pull a miracle in this one, or is Tampa Bay rolling your minds, Austin?
To me, this is the game that decides the AFC South. I think the Falcons are better than the Panthers, so much better. I don't particularly think that's going to be an interesting or close game. I think the Falcons are going to win that game. I think this is what decides the AFC South right here. Look, the Buccaneers are good. They've got a chance to close it up. They're going to be playing hard. The thing about the Saints is, a couple weeks ago, Rizzy was asked in an interview, you guys play so hard in every game. Aren't you focused on tanking? Why are you worried about winning games? Wouldn't it be better to lose at this point since you can't go to the playoffs? And he was basically like, screw that. I don't care about how high the draft pick is. He says, I want to come here and I want to win games. And that's what they've done in all these games down the stretch. They fought and they played hard. So I think they're going to give Tampa Bay a fight. They're not going to roll over and let Tampa have the NFC South. They're not going to roll over and just accept getting a worse draft pick. They're going to play hard. They're going to fight hard. I think this game's going to be closer than people expect, but I think there's no shot, no chance the Saints can beat the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers will get the job done, but I do think the Saints are going to give them a fight.
Okay. I could see that as well from the Saints. I think it'll be a close first half. I think first half will be very close at halftime, and people, will start looking around like, could this happen? Could this actually happen? And then I think you'll see Tampa Bay take control in that second half. Say, I'm with you. I will take Tampa Bay to win this game, but I'm with you. I think you're going to see a spirit effort because, listen, you say the Saints have nothing to play for. Really, in any division rivalry, you're looking to take down the other opponent, and you always play division rivals way better than non-division rivals. I mean, it doesn't matter in the AFC. The AFC North is a prime example to me. NFC South, I mean, the Tampa Bay, we think is clearly a better team than Atlanta, yet Atlanta took down Tampa Bay in both games. So, yeah, I'll take Tampa Bay to win that one as well. Now, for the AFC playoff picture, Austin, very simple for Denver. They are currently a 10.5-point favorite over the Chiefs backups in this one for Denver. If they win, they are getting in. This is no question in the mind. This has been factual for the last 2 weeks. Does Denver get that 7 seed in the wild card, Austin?
No. I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs backups to win this game. I think they come out and they shock them big time. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs in this game.
All right. I respect it. Which is why I'm going to do it too. You thought I was going to. I think it's too easy. That's my big thing with it. It's nothing against the Denver Broncos. I think they're a very talented team for this year for what they've done. It's too easy. I fully expect Denver to come into this game very nonchalant and play loose. And I think that could lead to turnovers early on where they get behind early. I think the good thing for Denver, at least, is this game is at home. If this was in Kansas City, I really don't think they would win this game or have a shot at winning this game. But it's at home, so they have a chance. But I'm with you. I think Kansas City, you will see the best Carson Wentz since 2017. Mark my words.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But the last one we're going to touch on before the big one, Miami taking on the Jets in New York. Miami needs this one. No Tua in this game. Most likely it'll be Tyler Huntley. So you're replacing a Pro Bowler with another Pro Bowler. So that's got to be something good. But taking on the Jets in what will probably be Aaron Rodgers' last game as a Jet, possibly his last NFL game ever. So Dolphins, Jets. Do the Dolphins get the win? And we both have the Chiefs. Do they get that 7 seed, Austin?
No. I've seen this Dolphins team. We've seen too much of this Dolphins team playing without Tua at quarterback, and it just doesn't work. I don't know what it is about this team, but it does. This offense does not work when Tua does not play. It's actually mind-boggling with all the talent on this team that the offense just doesn't succeed, but it doesn't. They don't run well. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to put up one last hurrah with the Jets to maybe make him think about bringing him back and to maybe make another team think about bringing him back. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is calling it a career after this year. I think he's going to use this game to try and basically, as film for somebody to say, hey, this is what I've still got left in the tank. I'm going to take the Jets in this one. It's going to be close because neither of these teams are going to be very good without Tua in this game, but I like the Jets.
Yeah, that was my exact thinking too. Is the Jets the Dolphins beat the Browns last week without Tua. They were playing against Dorian Thompson Robinson. Not to be mean to Dorian Thompson Robinson, but he is not the most elite passer in the world at quarterback there. Aaron Rodgers, we've seen what he can do when the weapons that they have for the Jets, very different when it comes to taking on this Dolphins team compared to the Dolphins taking on the Browns last week. Now, I think it'll be close, but I think also it being in East Rutherford helps the Jets. I'll take the Jets to win this game. So the way it has worked out with our picks is you have the Bengals getting the 7th seed and me picking all three to lose. If all three do lose, Austin, the Denver Broncos would still get the 7th seed. So I still have the Broncos getting that 7th seed. We'll see how that plays out. That is obviously the main playoff picture thing that everyone's going to keep their eyes on, especially if Cincinnati is to win on Saturday night. But, Austin, we've hyped it up. We've talked about it. We got to make a game pick for it now. Vikings and Lions, Sunday Night Football. The winner, the 1 seed in the NFC, will play at home in every single game in the postseason, all the way up to the Super Bowl. To the loser, heading on the road to take on most likely Tampa Bay or Atlanta, and then maybe, depending on how it works out in the other wild card games, coming back to the opponent that they just played. So it's going to be a fun one in Detroit on Sunday night. Vikings, Lions, Austin. Give me your pick.
Yeah, I won't draw it out any longer. Good game. I really want to lean with Sam Darnold and the Vikings right now. But my biggest thing in a game where these two teams are going to be so evenly matched and so close, I like where this game's played. It's being played in Detroit. If you think the city of Detroit's not going to go insane and sell out Ford Field for this game, you're wrong. Give me the Lions to clinch the 1 seed a little bit closer than they thought a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. You all know me very well. If you're a listener, and I've said this word a million times, I don't doubt Dan Campbell. Just enough. Just simple there. I don't doubt Dan Campbell. And, I think back to last week, taking on the Niners on Monday Night Football, and all the talk from ESPN and their wonderful analysts is, why are they even trying to win this game? Why are they even trying? It doesn't matter if they win or lose this game next week. And Dan Campbell came out and said, no, we're going out there to win. I'm not all about resting stars. We're going out there to win. And the Lions have adjusted their style of play based on all the injuries and have done what it takes for them to win games. And I think you will see that in this game against Minnesota. This will be a high-scoring affair on Sunday night, and that favors the Detroit Lions in my mind. And like you said, Detroit, it was rocking for the playoffs in the wild card round, the divisional round last year. You're telling me with a chance at the 1 seed to lock it up at home against a division rival, that place is not going to be fired up? Oh my goodness, it's going to be great. And I will take the Detroit Lions with you. I think Detroit will handle business here in a shootout. It will be dominant, and it will be, honestly, it could be like that Niners-Lions game last week. It could be a 41-34 kind of game with the amount of points there. But enough talk about our picks, Austin. Your final bet of the week for the regular season here. Obviously, some teams are playing starters, some aren't. So, kind of questions on some of your betting. What are you leaning with this Sunday?
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you 2 here because of one that I just heard that I couldn't resist. But they're both big spreads. I like a big spread. And in the NFL, when they get to double digits, that's so tempting. One that wasn't originally on the book, but once you told me, I just knew that this had to be mentioned. Browns plus 20 is probably going to be just ridiculously easy money. Look, they beat the Ravens in a matchup earlier this season. I know a lot of things have changed, but this is still a big game for the Ravens. Chance to play spoiler, chance to upset the Ravens. They're absolutely going to play as hard as they can. It's going to be much closer than 20 points. And then I also like the Bears plus 10 against the Packers. Another rivalry game. Hopefully the Bears go out swinging this season. I don't know if they'll win this game, but hopefully they'll keep it closer than 10.
Okay. I'll give you two as well. Number one, give me the under in Dolphins Jets. Very simple there. When the Dolphins don't have Tua, like you mentioned, they don't play well. They also don't score well. I have a fact for you, Austin. Dolphins are 4-1 to the under in games without Tua this season.
Ooh.
4-1 to the under. So I'll take the under in Dolphins Jets in that one. And you know what, Austin? I'm a madman. Give me the over on Sunday Night Football. Give me the over on Sunday night. I think it's currently at 55 and a half, 56. I'm a freaking madman, and I don't care what anyone says. Give me the over. I want a high-scoring affair on Sunday Night Football to end the regular season, and I think you're going to get it. 56 and a half, actually, is what it's at right now, so my bad. Over for that one, and the under for Dolphins Jets. Give it to me. I want a thriller on Sunday night to end the regular season.
I like it.
But that'll do it for us. Our next episode is going to come out before the college football playoff semifinals and going to come out before the NFL playoffs start next week. We're going to have multiple episodes. This is the gutsiest time of year for us where we got to lock in with these episodes. We're going to give them to y'all. But that's going to be it for this NFL episode. That's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Waiter, and we want to thank you for watching.